The ship shuddered violently as it pierced the thick, red clouds of the Deathworld. The boy, barely 10, felt his stomach twist as the floor beneath him tilted. He gripped the edge of the seat, knuckles white, and swallowed the fear rising like fire in his chest. The crew had said he would not survive here, that the planet devoured all who set foot on it. And now, staring out at the jagged landscape below, he understood why. Sharp cliffs clawed at the skies, rivers of molten liquid glowed like liquid fire, and twisted, thorned forests swayed unnaturally in the wind. The door opened with a hiss and the cold, acrid air of the planet whipped around him. He stumbled, nearly falling, before a rough hand steadied him. "You'll be fine," a soldier muttered, but his eyes betrayed doubt. The boy wanted to scream, to demand why they had sent him here alone, but no sound came. Instead, the ship pushed him onto the barren ground, and the engines roared before vanishing into the sky, leaving him alone. He took a shaky breath. The ground beneath his boots was jagged, blackened rock that cut through his thin shoes. He hugged himself, shivering despite the heat radiating from cracks in the earth. I can do this," he whispered, his voice trembling. There was no one to hear, no one to help, no one who believed he could. He began walking, each step a struggle, the jagged terrain forcing him to climb, slide, and scramble as if the planet itself tried to swallow him whole. The wind howled like a living thing. Strange screeches echoed from the cliffs, sending shivers down his spine. His heart pounded as he ducked behind a jagged outcrop, peering into the twisted forest ahead. Shadows moved unnaturally, stretching and twisting as though alive. The boy's pulse raced. He pressed a hand to the ground, testing its warmth. Not lava, not yet, but the vibrations beneath his feet made him pause. The world was not just hostile, it was alive. Hours passed. He had no food, no water, no plan. Panic clawed at his chest. "I can't die here," he said aloud, tears stinging his eyes. He stumbled over a black root, fell, and landed hard on his side. Pain shot through his arm, but it didn't matter. He forced himself up and kept moving. Then he saw it, a pair of massive, glowing eyes watching him from the forest edge. He froze, unsure whether to run or hide. The eyes blinked, studying him. He could feel the heat of them, the weight of intelligence behind the gaze. Something enormous moved behind the trees, and for a moment, the boy thought he was done, that the legends of the Deathworld's killers were true. The creature emerged slowly. Its body was massive, covered in scales that shimmered with red and black. Muscles rippled under its skin, claws that could tear boulders from the ground. Its head tilted slightly, nostrils flaring as it sniffed the air around him. The boy's knees shook, but he didn't run. Something in the eyes made him pause, curiosity, not aggression. Who are you?" he whispered, voice trembling. The creature lowered its head slightly, tilting to one side. It sniffed again, closer this time, and the boy flinched. He raised a trembling hand, palm out. I'm not going to hurt you," he said. The air vibrated with tension. Every muscle in the creature coiled like a spring. Then, with a careful, deliberate movement, it nudged his hand with its massive snout. The boy gasped, almost falling backward, and stumbled to steady himself. For hours they stayed like that, watching each other. The boy learned the rhythm of the creature's breathing, its cautious movements, the way it sniffed and observed the world. He spoke to it in whispers, telling it his name, asking questions it could not answer. Slowly, the fear that had consumed him shifted into fascination, then something else, hope. Night fell, bringing with it a cold that bit through his thin cloak. The world around them glowed faintly from molten rivers and distant eruptions. The boy huddled close to the creature's massive body, feeling heat radiate from its scales. He shivered, but not from fear. He had survived another day. Suddenly, a low growl echoed from the forest. The creature's ears twitched and its body stiffened. Shadows moved, unseen figures creeping closer. The boy's heart pounded. "They're coming," he whispered. The creature responded with a deep, rumbling roar, shaking the ground beneath them. The boy grabbed a stick, ready to defend himself, though he knew it was useless. The forest seemed to come alive. Branches snapped, strange noises surrounded them. The boy held his breath as the massive creature moved in front of him, muscles tense, claws scraping the ground. Whatever lurked in the darkness, it would have to face this guardian first. The boy swallowed his fear. "Okay," he whispered, gripping the creature's rough scales. "Let's survive." In that moment, a fragile bond formed between the human and the beast, born out of instinct, curiosity, and desperation. Alone on a planet meant to kill him, the child realized something extraordinary. Maybe he would not just survive, maybe he could learn to thrive. The Deathworld had a master waiting for him, and it had chosen him as well. The boy woke to a low rumble vibrating through the ground. The air was thick with heat, and the sky burned red with the planet's twin suns. He blinked against the glare, eyes widening as the massive creature moved nearby. It had curled around him during the night, a living shield against the planet's dangers. The boy reached out, brushing his hand over its rough, scaled hide. You stayed," he whispered, a tremor of wonder in his voice. The creature's deep, rumbling purr answered him, a sound both comforting and terrifying. He stood slowly, testing his legs. Every step across the jagged rocks was a risk. One wrong move could send him tumbling into the molten rivers below. The creature followed, each step precise, silent despite its size. The boy realized it was no mindless predator. It watched him, gauged him, and seemed to make decisions like it understood something about him. We need to find water," he said, pointing toward a distant valley glowing with strange phosphorescent plants. The creature only tilted its massive head, sniffing the air, then turned and began leading the way. As they moved, shadows shifted in the corners of his vision. Jagged trees groaned, and the ground trembled under invisible weight. Suddenly, a pack of alien predators burst from the underbrush. They were smaller than the beast, but their numbers made them deadly. Razor-sharp limbs glinted under the twin suns as they hissed and advanced. The boy froze, heart hammering, ready to run, but the creature stepped in front of him. Its claws dug into the rock, its massive body a wall between the boy and the attackers. The first predator lunged. The creature's roar echoed across the valley, shaking loose stones from the cliffs. In a single terrifying sweep of its tail, it sent two attackers flying into molten rock. The boy stumbled backward, awe and fear mingling in his chest. It's protecting me," he gasped, almost laughing in disbelief. But there was no time for relief. The remaining predators circled, cunning and fast. The creature's ears twitched, its eyes narrowing as it sized up the threat. Then, with a sudden coordinated charge, it scattered the pack, its speed defying its massive frame. After the fight, the boy ran to the creature, hands trembling as he reached its side. "Thank you. I don't know what I'd do without you." The beast lowered its head, nudging him gently with its snout. For the first time the boy felt more than fear. He felt a connection, a strange, instinctive trust. He realized the creature had chosen him, just as he had chosen to follow it. Alone they would have been easy prey, together they might survive. As they continued, the boy noticed the terrain growing stranger. Rocks jutted out at impossible angles, and the air shimmered with heat mirages. He stumbled over a root, crying out, and the creature was immediately there, nudging him to his feet. He looked up at its massive eyes. You're really looking out for me?" he whispered, voice catching. The creature's growl was low, almost affectionate, and the boy smiled despite the danger. Night fell again, colder and sharper than the day. Strange, glowing insects swarmed in the sky, and distant roars echoed across the cliffs. They reached a cavern, the walls glowing faintly from mineral veins. The boy dropped to the ground, exhausted, and the creature curled around him once more, offering warmth and protection. "We survived, another day," he murmured, closing his eyes. But sleep brought no peace. A sudden tremor shook the cavern and dust fell from the ceiling. From the shadows, a shape emerged, larger than any predator they had faced, with eyes that glowed like molten metal. The boy froze, heart racing. The creature hissed, its body coiling defensively. "Stay behind me," the boy whispered, gripping a jagged rock. The beast responded instantly, moving to shield him, muscles tensed for combat. The alien hunter circled them, sniffing, its claws leaving deep gouges in the cavern floor. The boy realized this was a test, a choice the Deathworld had laid before them. If the creature faltered, they were both doomed. The boy's mind raced. It's not just about strength," he whispered. "We have to be clever." He picked up loose rocks and tossed them to distract the hunter. Each time it lunged, the creature countered, striking with precision and intelligence. Hours passed in a tense standoff. The hunter finally retreated into the shadows, leaving the boy and the creature alive but wary. The boy sank to his knees, shaking with adrenaline. You're incredible," he said softly, brushing his hands over the beast's scales. The creature's eyes met his, and for a long moment, the boy felt understood in a way no human had ever understood him. They huddled together through the night, the twin suns rising to paint the valley in red and gold. The boy realized something that filled him with quiet awe. The Deathworld had not broken him, and the creature had not killed him. Instead, they had chosen each other, two beings forced into survival, learning, and trust. Ahead lay dangers beyond imagining, but for the first time he felt a glimmer of hope. Alone, neither could have survived. Together, they were a force neither predator nor planet could easily destroy. The boy smiled faintly, brushing dirt from his clothes. "Then we'll do it together," he whispered. The beast rumbled in response, as if answering, and they stepped forward into the unknown, ready to face whatever the Deathworld would throw at them next. The twin suns sank behind jagged cliffs, leaving the world in a deep, molten twilight. Shadows stretched unnaturally across the jagged ground, twisting and bending like living things. The boy crouched low behind a sharp outcrop, the massive creature coiled protectively at his side. He could feel its steady breathing, the low vibrations through the rock, and it gave him a strange comfort. Yet the silence was tense, loaded with the promise of unseen threats. A low hiss cut through the air. The boy froze, pulse hammering in his ears. "Did you hear that?" he whispered. The creature's eyes gleamed, muscles tensing, claws scraping the ground. From the darkness, shapes began to move, sleek, scaled predators with mirrored skin that reflected the dim light. They moved like shadows, silent and precise, their numbers growing with each step. The boy's stomach turned, fear clawing at him. He gripped a jagged rock in one hand, though he knew it was useless against these hunters. They're coming for us," he murmured, voice barely audible. The creature's growl rumbled in agreement, a deep, resonant warning that vibrated through the boy's chest. The predators circled, eyes glittering, teeth bared. The boy took a step back, slipping on loose stone, heart pounding. One predator leapt forward, claws slashing, and the creature reacted instantly, smashing it into the jagged rocks with a terrifying force. The boy gasped, adrenaline surging as the predator slid away motionless. The remaining predators hissed, regrouping with chilling intelligence. The boy's mind raced. We have to move," he said, pointing toward a narrow canyon glowing faintly with bioluminescent moss. The creature followed, each step careful but fast, a guardian and a partner at once. As they moved, another predator sprang from above, dropping silently from a cliff ledge. The boy barely had time to dodge, rolling into the dirt as the creature roared, smashing the hunter before it could strike again. Breathless, the boy glanced up at the massive eyes beside him. How do you know what to do?" he asked, voice trembling. The creature tilted its head, sniffing the air, listening, reacting in ways that made no human sense. They moved as a unit now, instinct and trust guiding each step. Every predator that lunged was met with precise counterattacks, every attack from the shadows anticipated. The boy realized something incredible. This was not just strength, it was strategy, intelligence, and instinct all combined. Hours passed, the pursuit relentless. The boy stumbled over jagged roots, scraping his hands and knees. I can't keep up," he whispered, exhaustion clawing at his body. The creature nudged him gently, pushing him forward, and the boy found new strength in its presence. They had survived because they had chosen each other, and that bond was stronger than fear, faster than instinct. Suddenly, a screech split the air, higher and sharper than any predator they had faced. From above, enormous winged hunters descended, talons slicing the glowing air. The boy ducked instinctively, his heart in his throat. The creature reared, tail slashing, claws tearing at the wings, forcing them back into the night sky. One crashed to the ground, another veered away, injured but alive. The boy stared in awe. You saved me again," he shouted. The cave of shadows ahead glowed faintly, offering temporary refuge. They slipped inside, panting, muscles trembling. The boy pressed his back against the wall, looking at the creature, a mix of fear and admiration in his eyes. "I don't think anyone would believe this," he said softly. The creature's low growl seemed like laughter, a sound of quiet understanding. As he caught his breath, he noticed faint tracks on the cave floor, slim, clawed footprints that were too small for the creature but too precise for the larger predators. Another threat, watching, waiting. The boy swallowed hard. "It's never just one," he murmured. "It's always more." His fingers trembled as he touched the creature's scales. "We have to stay smart. We can't just fight them all." The creature lowered its head, sniffing the cave, and then nudged him toward a tunnel glowing faintly with molten veins in the rock. Hesitant but trusting, the boy followed. Each step felt heavier than the last, but the bond between them gave him courage. He realized that survival wasn't just about running or hiding, it was about understanding, adapting, and trusting instincts he had never known he had. From the tunnel's end, the faint glow revealed another movement, a pair of glowing eyes watching them. Not one but two. The boy froze. "Another one?" he whispered, dread tightening his chest. The creature growled, muscles coiled for attack. They would have to face this new threat together, and he felt a strange surge of determination. "We've come this far, we can't stop now," he said, gripping a sharp rock. The creature's eyes met his, a silent promise. Together, they stepped forward into the shadows, ready to face whatever hunted them next. The night pressed in around them, alive with unseen dangers, but the boy no longer felt helpless. Each predator, each shadow, each tremor in the earth was a challenge they could meet, because they were not alone. They were a team, a bond of flesh, scale, and heart, and for the first time, the boy dared to hope that the Deathworld might not win. The sky above burned a deep crimson as the boy and the beast moved cautiously through the jagged terrain. Every step echoed on the cracked stone, every shadow seemed alive. The boy's heart raced with exhaustion and fear, yet he pressed forward. The Deathworld had taught him to trust instincts, to move with the creature, to survive against threats beyond imagination. Yet he sensed something new, something different. The wind carried a distant hum, not natural, not like the predators or the tremors of the ground. "What is that?" he whispered, crouching low. The beast's ears twitched and it pressed close to him. Its eyes glimmered, scanning the horizon, muscles coiled like springs ready to strike. A shimmering shape appeared above the cliffs, a human ship descending silently, engines muted against the red sky. The boy's stomach turned. "No, no, they're not here to save me," he muttered, fear and suspicion twisting his chest. The ship's hatch opened and figures emerged, armed and confident. Soldiers from the colony, those who had sent him to die, stood at the edge, scanning the rocky plains. The boy's hope faltered, replaced by dread. "Rescue? Or trap?" he murmured. The beast growled low, a sound that reverberated through the stone. It knew instinctively that danger approached not from nature, but from those who should have protected him. "Come on, boy," a soldier shouted, voice firm but betraying a hint of urgency. "Time to leave this planet. You survived, but we'll take you back." The boy's eyes narrowed, disbelief and anger flashing across his face. "You sent me here to die," he shouted, voice breaking. "You left me alone." The soldiers faltered, exchanging uneasy glances. That was the plan," one muttered, but another lifted his weapon, ready to force compliance. The beast growled, low and threatening, its massive body coiling to protect the boy. The soldiers froze, realizing the magnitude of the creature. It was larger, faster, and stronger than any predator they had ever known. The boy stepped forward, trembling but resolute, gripping a jagged rock in his hands. "I'm not going anywhere with you," he said, voice strong despite the fear. "You wanted me dead. You didn't expect me to survive. You didn't expect this." One soldier sneered, raising a blaster. "Child, step aside or we'll—" A roar cut him off. The beast lunged, massive claws slashing the stone, sending the weapon spinning. Rocks and dust flew as the soldiers scrambled, some firing weapons that barely scratched the scales of the beast. The boy ducked, heart pounding, amazed and terrified by the creature's raw power and precision. "This is insane," he shouted, ducking behind a boulder. They're trying to take me." The beast roared again, striking at the soldiers with incredible speed. The boy realized they had underestimated not just the creature, but the human who had survived the Deathworld's horrors. He shouted, pointing to unstable cliffs above. "Over here. Lead them here." The beast understood, moving with him as if they shared a single mind. Bullets ricocheted off stone, cutting the air with deadly hiss. The soldiers followed, arrogant and confident, until the terrain betrayed them. Loose boulders collapsed under their weight, the cliffside trembling. The boy's heart pounded. "Now," he shouted. The beast struck, shoving the largest soldier toward the edge. Rocks tumbled and the soldier fell, screaming, into the molten river below. The remaining soldiers froze, realizing they were outmatched. The boy breathed heavily, chest aching from adrenaline. You saved me again," he whispered, brushing his hand over the creature's massive head. The beast rumbled softly, eyes glowing faintly in acknowledgement. He realized that they had survived not by luck, but by trust, strategy, and understanding each other. They were no longer prey, they were a force that could turn the hunter into the hunted. One soldier raised a hand, trying diplomacy. You could come with us. You could leave this world alive." The boy shook his head, voice sharp. "Leave? With the ones who tried to kill me? Never." The soldier faltered, realizing the human in front of them had changed. He was no longer a scared child, he was a survivor hardened by the Deathworld, bonded to a creature no human could control. The soldiers retreated, unwilling to risk another confrontation. The boy and the beast stood on the jagged cliff, breathing heavily, surveying the red horizon. The wind carried the distant roars of predators, but the boy felt something stronger, a sense of power, of survival, of defiance. He whispered, "They'll never understand, but we'll survive. Together." Night fell, and the Deathworld's crimson glow faded into molten twilight. The boy crouched beside the beast, exhaustion and relief flooding him. Every moment was a reminder. Danger lurked everywhere, even from humans who claimed to care. But the boy's heart no longer trembled with fear alone. It surged with determination, with connection, with the understanding that survival required trust, courage, and unexpected alliances. He rested his head on the creature's warm scales, whispering softly, "We did it, we survived, and we'll face whatever comes next, together." The creature rumbled in reply, a sound that resonated like a promise, as the twin suns disappeared below the horizon and the shadows of the Deathworld stretched long and dangerous into the night. The boy woke to the sound of the Deathworld trembling beneath him. The ground pulsed like a living heart, hot fissures glowing beneath jagged stone. The massive creature shifted beside him, muscles coiled and eyes glowing bright, sensing something far larger than the predators they had faced. The boy swallowed, throat dry. This is it, isn't it?" he whispered. The creature rumbled low as if confirming his fear. Something enormous waited ahead, an instinct screamed that this battle would decide their fate. The landscape opened into a vast crater, molten rivers crisscrossing like veins, the air thick with heat and smoke. At the center the apex predator emerged. It was unlike anything the boy had ever seen, a mountain of muscle and scaled armor, claws longer than his body, a maw lined with fangs that dripped molten like saliva. Its eyes burned with intelligence, hunger, and power. The boy froze, every nerve screaming to flee. The creature growled beside him, a warning and a promise. We can't run," the boy whispered. "We have to fight, together." The apex predator roared, shaking the ground, sending loose stones and glowing embers flying. The boy hugged the massive creature's neck, his hands trembling. "I trust you," he said, voice breaking with adrenaline. The creature responded with a deep growl, coiling like a spring ready to strike. They advanced cautiously, circling the predator, watching its movements, reading its massive body like a living puzzle. Every step could be their last. The apex predator lunged first, claws gouging the ground, sparks flying as rock fractured beneath its weight. The boy ducked, narrowly avoiding being crushed, and the creature leapt into the attack, massive paws striking with precision. The predator howled, spinning and slamming into a molten ridge, sending heat and smoke into the air. The boy's heart raced as he scrambled across broken rock, watching the immense battle unfold. It's incredible," he shouted, awe and fear mingling. The predator lashed out again, faster than any human could follow, and the boy realized that this was more than a fight of strength, it was a battle of wits and instincts. "We have to trick it," he yelled, spotting loose stones and jagged cliffs around the crater. He began throwing rocks strategically, creating distractions. The apex predator turned its head, momentarily confused, and the creature lunged, claws sinking into its flank. A deep roar of pain echoed across the crater. The boy dodged a falling boulder, heart pounding, and shouted, "Now! Push it toward the molten ridge." The creature obeyed instinctively, guiding the massive predator with a series of precise strikes and movements. Sparks and molten rock flew as the apex predator staggered, roaring in fury, its massive tail smashing into the ground, creating shockwaves that rattled the boy's chest. Fear surged, but determination burned hotter. "We can do this, together," he yelled. The predator lunged one final time, massive jaws snapping. The boy ducked, rolling, and the creature struck, catching the predator off balance. It teetered on the edge of a glowing lava flow, claws scraping for purchase. The boy held his breath, heart hammering. Stay with me," he shouted, gripping a sharp stone as if it could help. The creature lunged, nudging the predator. One slip, and it fell into the molten river below, letting out a final, terrifying roar before disappearing into the fiery depths. Silence fell, broken only by the hiss of molten rock and the heavy breathing of the boy and the creature. He collapsed to his knees, hands shaking, tears burning in his eyes. We did it," he whispered. The creature nudged him gently, warmth radiating through its massive body. For the first time, the boy felt relief and triumph flooding through every nerve. They had faced the ultimate predator and survived. He stood slowly, brushing dust and ash from his clothes, eyes scanning the crater. No one could have done this alone," he said softly. We're stronger together. The creature rumbled, eyes meeting his, understanding flowing between them without words. They had survived not because of luck, not because of technology, but because of trust, courage, and the bond that had formed in the fires of the Deathworld. The twin suns began to rise again, painting the molten rivers in gold and crimson. The boy stretched, muscles sore but alive, and he looked down at the creature. "We made it," he said. "We survived, against everything." The beast rumbled in acknowledgement, stepping close, nudging him gently as if to remind him that the fight had forged something greater than survival. It had created a partnership, unbreakable and powerful. As they moved toward the edge of the crater, the boy paused, gazing at the horizon. The death world was vast, cruel and unforgiving, yet he no longer felt small or helpless. "We've survived the worst," he whispered, voice steady now. "And nothing will stop us now." The creature stayed close, eyes scanning for threats, tail flicking in readiness. Together they stepped forward, champions of a world that had tried to destroy them, stronger, wiser, and united in a way no predator, human or planet could ever undo. The boy smiled faintly, brushing his hand over the creature's rough scales. "We're alive," he said softly, voice full of awe and gratitude. "And we'll face whatever comes next, together." The creature rumbled in reply, a sound that vibrated through the molten ground like a heartbeat, and they moved onward, into the unknown, unbroken, unstoppable and truly unstoppable as one.